Hey guys, it's Jonathan with JWaltPhotography.com, and today I'm going to be showing you how I edit my concert photos. I get asked this question a whole lot, and today I figured I would share a little bit of how I do it, going from something like this as the raw shot to something like this as the final shot. Obviously, it's going to be different for everything, every photo that you do. This one worked pretty well. I'm going to go over the settings I used along with everything else and kind of go from there. So this is Dustin Lynch. He was playing at Black Diamond Harley Davidson in Marion, and I was invited out to cover the event for them, and it was a blast. This room was completely full, so I got lots of hands here. We had an incredible setup across the stage with motorcycles in the back, huge industrial fan. This was in a motorcycle warehouse. It was just a kick-ass show. But anyway, I couldn't get anywhere near the stage because people were to the stage, so I ended up having to shoot from the back of the room. But that's fine because I was able to get a lot of different things here. So on this lens, or on this photo, I was using my Sigma 24 to 70 f2.8. I was shooting it at 50 millimeters, just because that's what I got. That's what the frame looked right. ISO 1000, f3.2, and 1/320th of a second. That's just what worked. I did shoot this on spot metering. That helped because these lights were constantly pointing out towards me. So I wanted to make sure I was just getting him where it needed to be. And in this image, you can see even he was a tad overexposed. But I like to have my whites a little bright, especially when I'm in a darker room like this where all the lights up front. And I'll show you why I do that as I go through this editing process. I am using Lightroom CC on this, the Creative Cloud. This is what it started at. This is what we're going to end up with. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that reset button. This is straight out of camera. One thing I struggle with in this room is that this went this angle and this doesn't go quite that angle. So I had to decide which line I was going to keep, which horizon line I was going to keep straight. So the first thing I do on any image is I make sure that I have my right composition how I want it. So, and I'm gonna go through this pretty basic. I'm gonna click my crop tool, and I'm going to make sure it's stuck on the original ratio of the 2:3 or 4:6 or whatever. And for this, I want Dustin Lynch in the direct center of the screen. I don't want too much blank space at the bottom of the screen, and I want this beam to be hidden because it is not square with this rack, or at least in the camera's eye, it is not square with that rack. So let's see. So as you click the edge of the corner of this, it actually gives you the squared grid, and I'm going to be focusing on getting the motorcycle squared. And I want to make sure the speakers are in here because another one of my customers likes to have their speakers and their lights in the show, and I try to help out all my customers as much as possible. So right about there is going to be pretty good for the crop. So and again, I don't crop all my images. That's just what I happen to do on this one. I did shoot in auto white balance. I got really lucky because he had a spotlight on him and all white lights across the front. So I didn't run into any issues. My temperature and tint, I can keep that exactly where it's at, and it's fine. So the first thing I'm going to go through here is actually up my contrast. I know I want to up this a pretty sizable amount, probably there, because I'm going to be focusing on making these lights really sharp. And the only way to make those lights sharp, if you see, is contrast. If I open up the room all the way, it kind of looks like foggy. If I do this, you can see the beams of the light. So I want to find balance in between. And I always start with contrast on my concert photos because that sets the mood and sets the tone for the rest of the image. From there, I'm going to go down up to exposure, and I'm actually going to bring it up just a tad, probably about a stop right there. Now, it looks blown out, but wait, and you'll see why I did this. I'm going to pull the highlights all the way down. This reinserts all of that I just did with this into the image, but also let me bring back his skin tones. So again, I shoot in RAW just in case something like this happens. Sometimes the lights move faster than you need them to. I'm going to bring the shadows up to 100. I'm going to bring the whites down 100, so negative down. And then I'm going to bring the blacks down to about what looks good. And right there, you can see the image take shape. Now, had I left this at 0, it gets lost. So sometimes you have to know where you're going with the image before you start making adjustments. Because again, if I would have left that, I would have lost all that and I would have lost the color of his skin. It just wouldn't have worked out, where he would have got that weird halo effect around him. So anyway, that's where I go on there. As far as clarity, I get a little carried away with this sometimes, but I love it and I don't care. Judge me. Vibrance, I'm actually going to pull that up just a tad. And what you'll notice, and I like to go all the way with the Vibrance, see what kind of colors I get. If they look stupid, I pull it back. It looks stupid all the way up. I want the white lights to look white. I don't want them to be purple and look incandescent or whatever. So I'm going to pull this back, and I'll probably leave it right about there, just enough to give it a little bit of look. So again, we're just now through the first 3 sets of sliders, and we went from this to this. So it's looking pretty neat, but what you realize is his skin is orange. That's because of us messing with the highlights and stuff like that. I'm not going to mess with any of the tone curves, anything like that. I rarely mess with tone curves on concert photos. I rarely put a matte on there. The only time I do that is if I need to add atmosphere to make up for some grain. So we're not going to do that in this image. I'm never going to change the hue on this stuff unless I get into some weird lighting and I need to change a skin tone to a different color. But even I try to rely on white balance a little bit more for that. So I'm going to go down to saturation. Because the orange is so high, you can see it in his skin right here. I'm going to pull that down till I get a more skin tone color. And again, this is sort of a wide shot, so his skin's not too important, but a bright orange person on the stage will stand out. And since I did that, I'm going to kind of counterbalance the effect and pull down because what is now the lower saturation orange is his skin tone. So I'm going to pull that down a little bit, and I'm going to balance the actual color with the luminance. You can see it can either go really bright or really dark. I'm going to pull it down just a tad, probably, I don't know, right about there. It doesn't matter. And the last thing I'm going to do, and I never do this on photos, or I try not to, is I'm going to add a slight vignette to this on the post crop. The reason behind that is because I want to hide these lines, these beams, because I'm OCD as it gets. And when this line is horizontal and this line slightly rides up to the corner a little bit, it irritates me. So I'm just going to pull down the vignette just a little. And you can get by with this a little bit in concert photos because of this exact reason. Because it's dark and it kind of looks like it was supposed to be that way anyway. This is where I'm going to go back, readjust my composition a little bit to get the look I'm wanting. I never take anything out of photos. If it's in there, it's in there. I capture the experience. I don't try to make it look like it was something that wasn't. So this little wire, even though I don't like it there, it's staying there. If I can't just crop it out to this extent, and I don't want to cut those speakers off too much. See, I could try that, but then I lose a little bit of the crowd, and I'm starting to crop a little tight even for my liking. But we'll go with that. You still get the contrast. You still see everything going on. Looks neat. So from here, what I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to do one last thing, and that's just because this lens, whenever it's hit with bright lights and certain things, it gets reflection sometimes. And you can see right here, there's a purple haze off of that. Purple haze only in my brain. Purple haze is good in your brain, but not on your pictures. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm just going to do, wrong button, remove chromatic aberration, and then come over here and pull down the purple a tad. There we go. Just enough to where it's not there anymore. And that will remove it out of the lights and all that stuff too. Not a big deal. So there we go. So we started out with this, ended up with this, and now we got a sexy photo of Dustin Lynch rocking out at, is he standing on the drummer's head? Look at that. How awesome is that? So that's how I do my photos. You can check out more of my videos. If you like stuff like this, leave a comment below. Be sure to like and subscribe. That lets me know what I need to make videos of. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.